Alright, so I'm doing my presentation on a story called The North by Babak Lakomi. It's on the American Short Fiction website. It's there right here. Um, so here is my presentation. There it is. So this is a presentation, and this is about the author. He was born in Tehran, Iran, but he now lives in Hamilton, Ontario. He's best known for his work called Floating Notes from 2018. And this story was published October 2nd, 2020, so fairly recently on the American Short Story. So the summary of the story, he doesn't give any of the character names. It's just mom, dad, uncle, and one of the other characters is just some other guy that's with his uncle. And it's told from the perspective of a person looking back on his life. You can tell at the end because he talks about as he grew up, how his uncle grew up with him, or like how his uncle changed over time. And it seems to be during like some sort of war, because in the beginning it says that they're being driven into like north, and they haven't seen any enemy planes fly over yet. So, but it's very vague most of the story. And he's with his parents and his uncle. He's sitting in the back seat with his parents in the car, and his uncle's driving with one other guy that they have never met before. He's just a stranger that's with his uncle. And so the main thing is they go north, and they go to this like camp basically, where they stay in these huts, and him and his parents stay in the one, and his uncle goes and stays in the other, and they go into town every once in a while to get food and stuff and live out there. But his parents told him that he can't go to his uncle's hut because that's like where he is, and they don't want him to go over there. And he hears screaming coming from there all the time. And he happens to one day walk over there while his parents are gone, and he sees his uncle inside the hut through the slits, and he is tied up to his bed naked. And it's just like a really weird thing that he sees, and his uncle makes eye contact with him, and that's where he stops talking about it, and he talks about whenever he remembers going there, he remembers none of that stuff, and that after that, his uncle, the next thing is his uncle eventually moves back in with his grandma, and he just kind of moves on from it very quickly. So the theory I used and analyze this is the psychoanalytical and mainly the dream work part. And of that, they're like repression, because it seems like he's definitely repressing these feelings that he had from when he saw his uncle that way. And this is, I'm assuming, why he really never addresses what he saw or talks about it past just saying what he saw. And it makes the story very interesting, because we can tell that he has a lot of details from other parts of this story about like the guy that was with his uncle and what his parents do and how they live their lives, but he doesn't talk a lot about what he saw with his uncle, and even about like what's going on during the time with enemy planes flying overhead, and everyone was like leaving the city, and they were like one of the last people to leave the city. And so all of this like trauma from when he was young seems to be like messing with him, and he kind of like seems like he's repressing it throughout the story by not really talking about it and being very vague. This is the passage I pulled out. It says, "But somehow, whenever I think of him, I don't think of the ruins of shrapnel or shattered glass. I remember the north, the boy selling honey by the roadside, the sound of rain falling into tin buckets, the horses roaming on the hills." And this is kind of just a good example of the repression. He's pretty much just telling us that he doesn't think of the bad things. The boy selling honey, they like stop somewhere on the road to their camp or whatever, and there's a boy selling honey, and he wants to go over and get some, and he's just never able to, but it's just like a fond memory he has, and along with the rain and the horses on the hills where they were staying. So it seems very obvious that he represses a lot of the stuff that happened and tries to remember all of these other things. Some of the questions I have is for you guys is it healthy? Do you think it would be healthy for the main character, like to repress all of these memories that he has, or would it be more like beneficial to him to talk about them? And how do you think you would respond if when you were young you saw something traumatic? Would it be something you would repress based on like your personality, you think, or is it something you would talk about? And that's all I have to say about it. The story was really short and I liked it, but it was a very short story and really weird, kind of just very vague at times. Here's the story. It's not very long, a lot of dialogue. That's how it ends. Here's the one part about his uncle. Right here. Heard my uncle the day. I looked through the gaps between the wooden planks and saw my uncle naked, his hands and legs tied to the bed. His head was hanging from the mattress into a bucket, his long beard crusted with vomit. He was shivering and twisting in the bed when his eyes met mine. And then straight to the next time I saw my uncle, the war was over. He moved back. So, and then from there he just talks about how his uncle is very changed and not a lot. He doesn't do the same things he used to. He doesn't really talk. He's just he just keeps getting fatter, not really doing anything. And it was just a very weird way to end the story, I thought. But I thought it was really interesting. That's all I have. So, thank you.